Welcome to Self-Centered Living, a podcast that serves as a vital platform for women of color across cultures and backgrounds to take charge of our narratives and where our voices are centered. I'm your host, Trish, and here we delve into our diverse experiences and rich humanity through a blend of personal stories and insightful discussions with a range of guests. Our aim is to foster meaningful connections and understanding among our listeners. This season, we're exploring the scripts that shape us, the ones we inherited, the ones that were imposed, and the ones that want to emerge when we can finally see them. Today is the final episode of the season. And if you've been here the whole season, every episode, all the way through, let me say a particular welcome to you. You've come the distance. Because that's what this season has been. A bit of a climb. We started with the scripts we inherited, the ones that landed before we were ever asked, before we could agree to them. Then the scripts that were imposed, the ones pressed onto us from the outside by other people's expectations and fears and comfort. And then we turn toward what wants to emerge, what has been trying to come through underneath all of it. And part of what the season gave us was the chance to learn a little more across our cultures. A couple of those gifts I want to name before we go on. From Terry, the Japanese value of gaman, enduring hardship with dignity and never passing its weight to another, it carried her family through internment, the prison camps, as experienced. It also kept a silence. Terry honored the silence, understood it, and chose differently. From Ida, an Iranian expectation, acknowledgement. Worth is recognized, not requested. To ask for what you earned can feel like losing face. American corporate life runs in the opposite way. You have to ask for it. You have to self-promote. Ida is learning to ask, and she'll tell you it still challenges her each time. It's been a steady incline, some of it rocky, and if you stayed with it, if you've let these episodes work on you, you're standing somewhere now that you weren't standing at the start. So today, for the finale, I want to take you up to the view. For a stretch of time, my work brought me to San Francisco. On the weekends, one of the things I loved to do, I'd walk for about 20 minutes over to Corona Heights, a park over there. It's not a manicured place. It has a rocky outcrop that juts out onto the city. The climb is short, but it can be intense. It asks something of your legs, a little of your lungs, and a little of your nerves where the footing gets loose. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes of that. And you come up onto the summit. Then the whole thing opens. The neighborhood's laid out below you, the city stretching in every direction. The particular streets you just walked through, now small and clear beneath you. Here's the thing I noticed every time. I hadn't gone anywhere new. I did this walk regularly, this hike regularly. It was the same city I'd been walking all around in the week, same streets, same corners. Nothing down there had changed. What changed was where I was standing. I climbed high enough to finally see the thing I'd been moving through the whole time. That's what a season of this work does. You don't leave your life. You don't trade it in for a different one. You climb high enough to see it, clearly from above, maybe even for the first time. Because from up here, you can see the scripts. You can watch them running, the inherited ones, the imposed ones, the routes worn so deep from repetition that you mistake them for the only way forward. And seeing, that's the whole thing. That's what the climb was for. Because a script you can't see just runs on. Doesn't feel like a script. It feels like fate. It feels like simply the way things are, the way you are, the way it's always going to be. The road doesn't end here at this summit. Let me be clear about that. Life is an endless road. The hills to climb do not stop coming. There is no summit where you finally are done. We are endlessly arriving at a new understanding about ourselves. But now you can see the forks in the road, the turns you couldn't make out when you were head down, just walking forward, maybe sometimes in any direction, but still with the head down. Where it felt like there was one way forward, you can see now there actually are many. That's choice. That's what the view gives back to you. And once you've seen it, you can't fully unsee it. So let's talk about that choice. Actually, let's do something better. Let's fall into it for a minute. I'm going to ask you to picture a few things. Don't reach for them. Don't work at it. Just allow them to arrive. And notice what happens in your body when they do. Picture yourself following a thread just to see where it goes. Not because it's useful, not because anyone asked. Something catches your attention, a subject, a craft, a question you can't quite put down. And for once you let yourself follow it. No destination, no reason you'd have to defend. Just the quiet thrill of I wonder and the freedom to chase it. You are the kitten with a ball of yarn. All right. Picture yourself somewhere you've never been. You've left the familiar behind, the usual streets, the usual rooms, the version of you that knows exactly what comes next. The ground here is unmarked. You don't have a map. And for once, that isn't frightening. It might even be a little terrifying. Yet, it's open, wide, yours to move through. You're a little exposed and completely alive. I'll give you one more. Picture yourself doing something with no purpose at all. The careless kind of fun that lets yourself go. Maybe you're dancing with nobody watching. Maybe you're laughing so hard you can't get your words out. There's nothing to accomplish, nothing to earn, nothing being measured, just delight for no reason at all. Because you've allowed. You've allowed it and you're allowed to. Stay for one more second. That ease you're feeling, that softening in your chest, in your shoulders, wherever you felt it. That wasn't fantasy. That was recognition. Some part of you already knows that life. It's not asking to be invented. It's been waiting for you to turn and look at it. This is the moment where I could hand you a list 10 steps to that life, a 5 a.m. routine, a morning stack, a protocol, more things to do, more things to add, more things to consume you on your way there. But I'd be lying to you because not one of the things you just pictured or felt into comes from adding more. Those moments of a life don't get built, they get sourced. You don't reach the source by piling on. You extract the noise, all the content, including the content of your own life, and you get quiet. You get centered in yourself. Now, let me tell you what I mean by quiet, because I don't only mean silence. Silence counts, sure. But quiet can also be a nervous system that has finally stopped bracing. It can be the lull that comes over you in repetitive movement, the rhythm of your own feet, your own hands rubbing against the top of your legs repeatedly, your own breath. It can be the body simply at ease. What it really means is stepping out of the noise, the endless input, the habitual chatter of the mind, the consumption, the being always on that we've come to think of as just being awake, which in many cases could not be further from it. We live in a kind of unregistered soul sleep. It's being with yourself in whatever surrounding lets that actually happen. And nature is generous in that way. A quieter mind comes a little easier under an open star-filled sky. Listen, you get to choose the vehicle. For me, it has been for the last 3 decades meditation. It has also been running myself tired, where my resistance is down and I just have to succumb, allow. It has come from baking, my hands and the ingredients that takes me out of the constant thinking and into feeling and back into my body. It has been a moment of just rest, simple rest, my body falling against something comfortable and allowing that comfort to absorb it. So those are mine. Those are things that work to bring me into this rested, relaxed state where the mind chatter settles and the body, the physiology, relaxes some. Yours might be something else entirely. The method or methods are for you to explore and discover. Whatever quiets the mental chatter and gets you present to the moment you're in and alive to everything moving through it. And I want to say what I mean about present and aware, because both words can sound like abstractions until you've felt them or have an idea of what they are. I mean the breeze on your face and the sound of the twigs breaking under your feet on a walk. I mean the temperature of the water and the slippery suds running over your hands as you wash dishes. I mean the sound of the cantankerous blue jays outside your bedroom window. Those are the things we don't notice at all when our mental habits run unchecked, when the chatter has taken over. Getting quiet is how you get back to them, to the noticing. Let me bring in someone who has nothing to do with meditation and everything to do with why this matters, getting to the quiet. Her name is Latanya Sweeney. She was the first African American woman to earn a PhD in computer science from MIT, and she's now at Harvard. A few years back, I was listening to her on the On Being podcast, talking about artificial intelligence, and she said something that stayed with me. She said that in artificial intelligence, the artificial is far bigger than intelligence. That something like ChatGPT doesn't actually know anything. It's statistical patterns, correlations between words gathered up from across the internet and carrying every one of the internet's biases right along with them. She's even said that before long, most of what's on the internet may not be written by people at all, but by machines, bots. Now, you might be sitting there wondering what a Harvard computer scientist has to do with any of this, with the ease you just pictured for yourself. Stay with me, because this is the whole point. Without the quiet, without ever stepping back from the constant being on, that is exactly how life gets assembled. From the outside in, from the noise, from the defaults, the borrowed, the already said. 10% intelligence pulling from the commonality and the mediocrity all around us, producing one more version of the same, an unaware life stitched together out of everyone else's. The alternative is a life sourced from the inside, authored by you. And you reach it by stepping out of the noise, by getting quiet enough and settled enough in your own body that what is actually yours can finally surface and be heard by you. That's where awareness grows, in the quiet, in the settled, and you get to decide what brings you there. You get to decide the vehicle. Here's something else it helps to know. And by now you may already be noticing it. The scripts change. They can't help but change. We're dynamic, we're expansive. Life itself doesn't hold still for a second. So think about the effort it actually takes to keep forcing yourself into the same script while everything about you and around you keeps moving. Or put it another way, consider everything, seen and unseen, that goes into a single moment arriving exactly as it does, and then the effort it would take to push against all of those divinely, mysteriously orchestrated particulars just to keep one script from changing. I will tell you about the moment I felt one of mine change. Several years ago, I was in my somatic coaching program, a long weekend with my cohort in Petaluma, California. About a dozen of us in a room, spending 4 days building somatic awareness. I want you to sit with that picture for a second because it isn't lost on me. A dozen people with time in the room and the safety to do nothing but explore what it is to live inside a body. That's a kind of luxury. I know exactly whose life made mine open enough to be standing in that room. One of the exercises you did with a partner. Your partner would walk up behind you, rest their hands on your shoulders, and say a single statement to you. a statement that you had written and handed to them in advance. Then they'd lift their hands away, step back, and stay behind you. The statement I had given mine, I had been living for a long time. It held duty, respect, and love, and a debt I felt one lifetime could never repay. It was my mother's story, a hardworking woman who came to this country from a small Caribbean island and built a decent, comfortable life, a life that became a safe haven for family members, a woman generous beyond generous, a woman who shows you her love through her cooking and her hospitality, as is customary in our culture. The life she built is the reason I was standing in that room at all. And I had been gripping her story, holding it tight, so I would never forget, never stop being grateful for how I got here. So my partner rested her hands on my shoulders, said my statement back to me, and then lifted their hands away. And my body answered before my mind could. My shoulders rose ever slightly and subtly, rotated back, and dropped. My chest opened into a spaciousness, and I pulled in a breath deeper than any I had taken that entire day and let it go. In that rising of my shoulders was a knowing, and it arrived whole. This was never mine to carry. Not because it doesn't matter, it matters more than almost anything, but carrying it, gripping it, was never what my mother intended. It was the opposite of what she intended. She built the life that she built so that I could be free of the constraints she'd known. So there would be more doors for me to walk through. Holding her story like a weight on my shoulders was working against the very freedom she made for me. That's the thing about a script. It feels permanent because it goes unquestioned. You never put it down long enough to look at it. And the moment it gets confronted, even by something as simple as a pair of hands firmly placed and then lifted off your shoulders, it loosens. Here's the thing, it wasn't only me. If you were here all season, you watched this happen over and over in the woman who sat with me. Alexa took the Catholic devotion she was raised to pour outward into service, into something greater, and began gradually turning it toward herself. Amelia widened what she was allowed to be. Met by a world that saw her identity one way, she opened the definition instead of shrinking it to fit in. White, Dominicana, Latina, all being true at once. Jessica is marrying two worlds she'd been taught to keep apart: her Western medical training and the older ancestral healing in her blood, finding a way to bring all of herself to the work. None of them necessarily called it a script, but each felt where something no longer fit and moved towards what was true for her. So here's what I want to leave you considering. If seeing the scripts gives you choice, and if the scripts were never permanent in the first place, then maybe we can hold all of it a little more lightly. Take ourselves a little less seriously. Stop running on autopilot through a life assembled out of everyone else's defaults and start to create instead a script that's actually sourced from you. I'm not going to answer this one for you. I'm going to leave it with you. What opens up for you now that you can see? Maybe you can't see completely, but you see a little bit more than you did before. What opens up for you? Last season, Dortea Mendoza said something I've carried ever since. She said that her writing, her Zen practice, and her work out in the community, underneath, they were all the same thing. That all of it came down to opening up, deep listening, staying intimate with everything and everyone. And that suffering comes when we stop doing exactly that. That's what the quiet is for. Not to pull you away from your life, to get intimate with it again, to listen deeply enough in a settled enough body that you can finally hear what's yours. That's the whole climb this season. Learning to see the scripts so you can choose. Getting quiet enough to source life that's actually your own. And holding all of it lightly because you're still being made. We all are. It never stops. The being and becoming, and more being and becoming. So, from the top of the hill at our summit, with the whole view open in front of us, thank you for climbing it with me. Come back next season when we start to get into the possibilities. Until then, and most importantly, stay self-centered. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Self-Centered Living. Our music is by Ketsu. Information on our participants can be found in the show notes. You can find me at selfcenteredliving.com. Take care until then.